We just want to let everybody get comfortable. Folks, feel free to turn on your cameras. We love seeing your faces. We love seeing your living room art. Please be sure to be dressed when you turn on the cameras.
And don't be doing those other things.
Yes, yes. There's been a little too much of that this week for those who are following. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We're going to start the conversation. Just 1 minute. I just kind of fill the air now to make sure that your sound is working. I'm really excited about tonight's discussion. And we have some very special guests from Somewhere to Be. I hope you've all seen the film. If not, I think it's available for a few more hours tonight. You could watch it. I hope you're all doing well. We're going to give some latecomers a few minutes till we start. We start here officially on Jewish time, which is 2 to 3 minutes late. Just like Broadway, right? So folks, as we get ready to start, I'll just share some upcoming film programs coming from the JCC. Next week, we have a very special presentation of the film Rosenwald, which is by Aviva Kempner, and she will be joining us for Q&A. It's a we actually showed this film, I'm going to say 4 years ago or so, and it remains extremely timely. So we're really happy to present, to have this very special presentation of the film. Then I'm proud to share that on Monday, November 2nd, the day before the elections, we are going to be having a panel of called Films for Democracy. And it's going to have 3 different filmmakers who are all filmmakers that made films relating to our democracy and the election process. The film Represent, The Antidote, and All In, The Fight for Democracy. So we're going to have the filmmakers of those 3 films on a panel. And it's, I think, the best way to prepare for the elections. Their films are already available through our site, and through other sites. So if you go to jccfilm.org and click on it, it'll give you all the instructions on how to watch all of these films. Then coming up, we just announced, coming up later in November, Sunday, November 8th, we're having a special premiere of HBO Max's show Valley of Tears. It's about Israel's Yom Kippur War. And we'll have the filmmakers here for that. And I'll also mention that in December, we have our 14th annual Other Israel Film Festival, and we're about to announce the lineup for that. So stay tuned very soon to get your early pass. I think at this point we are ready to officially start at 7:33. Good to start. Welcome. My name is Isaac Zablocki. I'm the Director of Film Programs at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan, and we're very excited to host a panel for Somewhere to Be, and I'll introduce our filmmakers in just a moment. I do want to give a shout out. I'm holding my t-shirt from our Wexler Center for Modern Aging, which officially was named and opened last week. And we're really excited to host these programs, and they've been a great partner for this event. So please check out all of their programming. I have a lot to say about tonight's film, but I think I'm going to let it come out in conversation more. I will say, I had mentioned to the filmmakers earlier that rewatching the film now, suddenly the film became very nostalgic to this world of communities and community center. And that's what we try to do at the JCC as well. And it's really the work that we are probably all missing the most right now. And Zoom is a wonderful thing that we can all do till then, but it does not replace that human contact and really the beauty of a community coming together, and the amazing work that the center featured in the film does. So the film really played in a very different way. It plays in a different way for me now than it did, I think, when I originally saw it. It's now probably like 10 months ago or so. So it's something to note, and something that it's also part of the discussion of where are we now. So it gives me, first of all, great pleasure to introduce the filmmaker, the director of the film, Peter Odabashian. Peter, thank you so much. Welcome back, Peter.
For having us. Thank you.
This is Peter's second film that we're screening here, really, I was really moved when I saw the film, and we had been planning this. We thought at first that there might be an outdoor screening during the summer. We were looking for the right date, and eventually it was going to be Zoom. We knew it. And he's there with the executive producer of the film, Esther, his wife. Esther, thank you for being here as well. And then we have with us, we have the Senior Center Director, of the Washington Square North, Laura. Thank you so much for being here. Laura Marececa, I get that right?
Yeah, Marececa.
Marececa.
That's okay.
Marececa, the right way. Good.
Yeah.
I should have checked. We have the Executive Director and CEO, Darren Bloch. Thank you, Darren, for being here.
See you, Isaac. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. And the Director of Senior Services, Judy Levin. Judy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Folks, you'll have the opportunity to ask anyone questions, be a part of this conversation. If you haven't done one of these Q&As with us before, right now you're muted. Don't even try to unmute, it won't work. But if you either raise your hand or put a question in the chat box, better to put your question in the chat box. Yara, you could introduce yourself. Yara Kedem, who works with us as well, will unmute you and let you ask your question live. So please share your questions. We are eager to make you a part of this conversation as well. Let me start off with you, Peter, telling me how this all started for you.
It really started because one of the seniors in the film, Albert Ilya, who's a wonderful painter and illustrator, and is an old friend of ours. We've known him for like 30 years. And
we taught next door to one another at Parsons School of Design
many years ago. And I'm always looking for an idea, and he said he saw the film before this one, and he just thought that what goes on at the center. I'm so used to call it Center on the Square, but now I have to call it Washington Square North. I have to train my brain to do that. That the people there were unusual, he thought, and he knows I'm always looking for unusual people, basically. And so I had lunch with him there, and I experienced what you see in the beginning of the film, and it was kind of love at first sight. And luckily, the people at Greenwich House and Laura, welcomed me in. I guess they'd been living in NYU. Had you been living in NYU students before? Was that part of it? I think. Anyway. No. I thought like NYU film students would come there and shoot for a day or something.
Yeah. So once in a while, yeah, you're right.
I had to explain that I was going to be there a lot longer than a day.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it all worked out beautifully, and I was so happy to be there, and that's how it started anyway.
Wonderful. So that's actually really interesting about the NYU students. It's definitely, I feel like each character in that film could have their own film. It's a great setting for a reality TV show. That's my pitch to Netflix. I first have to ask, and I don't know who to start with as far as all of you who are running it. I have to ask, first of all, what's going on now? That's just on the tip of my mind. Laura, do you want to start?
Yeah, so what's going on now is, we turned the senior center pretty much into a virtual senior center. We took many of the classes that we had in-house to Zoom, and we're doing some virtual classes. We're also making wellness calls, over 1,000 wellness calls. Probably in a week or two, we have all our staff making wellness calls to all of our members. And we're also working with Get Food New York to make sure that everybody has a meal. We're also doing a case assistance with our social service department to make sure that anybody that needs some case assistance is getting case assistance. So that's what's going on right now in the senior center. We have about 30 classes online, and they're very well attended. So
I'd
That's
say
great.
beyond what's physically happening there, Laura, Judy, myself, others, certainly around Greenwich House and around the city, I think we're involved in a fairly robust debate about, what's the right timing to open these centers. And so I think one of the things we were talking about shortly before we had everyone come in is, the movie is this striking reminder, this touching reminder of how valuable these places are to create these relationships. And so I think there's a real tension, a healthy tension, but a tension around, how quickly do you open them to facilitate those type of relationships, or what is our responsibility to try to be a little more careful and safe with who we know, from the science is among the most vulnerable to this virus. So it's a real, in addition to everything Laura said about bringing it online, that is something very actively front of mind for all of us.
Judith, did you want to add anything?
No, but I think, like you, I was so struck in kind of reviewing the film from when I first saw it to now in terms of the strength of the relationships. And one of the things we have seen is just how much the connections with people that you see in the film, how important that is to them now. And however we can kind of keep those going during this time period, where we try to, but as Darren said, there is this energy to how to get it going again. So it's very poignant. And also I found it kind of uplifting too, to see it again, so.
Yeah, we will be back there, and
Yeah.
it's really a beautiful thing, and it's nice to take a moment to be able to escape into the world that we had. And I'm just sad you're not serving lunch anymore, I take it.
no, not right now. No,
No.
not physically in the space.
No. Peter, let me ask you, how did you decide what you wanted to focus on in the film, and how long was the filming process?
I always sort of go into these things not really knowing what I'm doing. I don't really I'm not the kind of documentary maker who's kind of on a mission, or even going into with an agenda of any kind. So I just go in and start shooting, and the interesting thing about this kind of film is that it's very self-contained. It's so you're where you have to go every day. It's not like figuring out where you should be or something like that. So it's very much what happens, what pops up and what doesn't. And then I shot for 6 months. The other weird thing is that after this, I had a sort of long film career, but at the last, I guess it's probably like 12 years now, I've been making films literally on my own in terms of the shooting process. I go in, so it's just me, and I have figured out sort of how I can do that. And so that also makes it very sort of flexible and hopefully not too intimidating. So I just try to get people to say something, that rings true, and most of the time, luckily, I don't have to do anything to get that except be in the right place at the right time. And, that's kind of how it came to be. And slowly it took shape as being a film about community. I think that became, more and more clear, as it went along.
I mean, for sure, that's what struck me the most. And of course, we might be uptown at the JCC in Manhattan, but we're not that far away, and very much felt the relevance of the community message that is the same everywhere, probably.
Yeah.
I'm curious to the reactions of some of the members who are in the film or are regulars at the center.
Well, I think a lot of the members were obviously very proud. They were proud of their work and their contributions. And like you said, they're proud of the community that they created. They were they were moved by the film, and it was we appreciate Peter and coming in and really shining such a positive light on Center on the Square. And like we do say in the movie, we try to embrace everybody that comes in, whether, whatever their background is. And I think that's something that a lot of our members were very proud of. I think they were very proud of the, inclusive program that we have, and that we include anybody that comes in into our door or through our doors. We're always very proud of that. So I think they were proud of that, the members, and they were proud of themselves for being in the film.
I feel like it's a little bit of a best kept secret in some ways, that this is right there in Washington Square Park. Like some might say that's like the center of New York. It's definitely more associated with it's not associated with the senior scene, let me put it that way, right? It's the heart of NYU. Has that changed, possibly due to the movie? Has there been any impact?
I don't think so. I don't know, Judy, what do you think? I don't think so.
No, I do think, what Laura says is I think the members, we had something to talk about. I think this did also create a buzz at the center, and, gave us something to kind of, as you say, feel good about and share. And I mean, off topic a little bit, I think also the spotlight of everybody in the center that Peter brought to it, the staff, and they're highlighted parts of the center that we don't really always think about when we work in the center. All of a sudden there were kind of things highlighted that, were great to have spotted as well, like that, certain relationships that we take for granted. So I think that was something brought to light.
I'd also just say, Isaac, and I know this isn't the thrust of why Peter did the film, and he wanted to capture these individuals, these personalities, and a little bit of the space, but it's, to the question about what it did for Center on the Square, I think actually most remarkably, I think it brought a really creative lens, a view into what a lot of spaces like this are creating. And I think there's a misconception about what a senior center is, and there's this outdated notion of, it's this place where you come for meals, which is certainly, to be clear, in the city, it's a huge need for older adults and for many in our city that need access to food. But, I think it was Laura at one point that called it what was your phrase for it? Was it a club for older adults or something like that?
Yeah.
But it was something like, and I think he captured this sense of the full breadth of like enrichment that happened. And I mean, Center on the Square, I'll say, obviously, I think it's a special place, and what Judy and Laura, and I see Andrea Newman from our team on this Zoom, and others, what they've created there is special. But we always talk about what makes it special. We can kind of facilitate a space, but it's the energy of the people who come in there and kind of how they fill that space. And so I thought it was a really neat lens into that, because I think far too many older adults view these places with maybe a little bit of stigma, or a little bit of, that's not really for me. And I think it was just it was great pulling back the sheet a little bit to show kind of what that vibrancy looks like.
And I think the other thing is the seniors become very informed about senior centers in general. So, they'll go to one in Queens because they like the lunch on Thursdays, or no, really,
Yeah, sure.
I mean, they're not all locals. I mean, they're not all from the village, They come from all over the city, really.
So it doesn't matter how welcoming the place is, it matters what they serve for lunch. That's the bottom line.
Sometimes.
I got the feeling it's a very warm place, and very welcoming and very open, and definitely something that should be celebrated, and people should see, because right, you never know what a place is like from the outside. It's really what the movie gives you is a little taste of the inside. Yes, please, Laura.
What in terms of how Peter shot the film and being on the premises, Peter, you kind of became part of the place in a way. So I think we even get a deeper look at the relationships, because people were very open, and you really could see, kind of a broader range of, the activities and people by how you were kind of, how you became a part of the place as well. So
Great to be able to spend that much time there. I think it made the film
Yeah.
much better.
yeah,
What always shocks me every time I watch the film is the devotion that the staff has, especially Loretta and Roberto, the kitchen staff, and at all of our Greenwich House sites. And all of our Greenwich House locations and sites, whether it's the senior center, the staff really has a devotion to their job and a real love for, what they're doing. Even Roberto, even though right now Roberto, who's our porter, he's making phone calls, he's using Google Documents, he's doing things that he was never trained for. And that's because he really has a love for the job, the love for, and Peter, you captured that so well, I feel. You really captured that well.
Everybody has a personal relationship with the people who come there.
Mhm.
The
Yes.
people certainly do.
So I'd love to open to some questions from the audience, but I had one more question that Judy, you kind of hinted on a little bit. Watching the film, what kind of surprised you that you like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know that was going on here, or kind of just took you by surprise as far as like the perspective that it might have given? And Peter, I asked this question to you too, as far as when you were coming in there, kind of what surprised you as you were making the film that you really didn't expect? Peter, do you want to start?
I need to think about it for a minute. Maybe.
Okay. Judy, you were hinting to something before, some relationships.
Yeah, well, I think Laura picked up on that in terms of the staff. So that piece, not that I was surprised, but also to see it kind of portrayed in the film. Also, just not surprising again, but just how devoted people are to the center and to each other. I think that's not a surprise, but really hearing how the members cared about each other, and their relationships went deeper than just kind of day-to-day friends. They were really kind of very strong. Both the arguments and the kind of joking was really very moving. As doing some of the social work and administrative work, I don't always see that day to day. So that was really special.
As I'll tell you what struck me, and I'm in a little unique position. Laura and Judy have been doing this work for years. I came in as executive director only about 10 months ago. And so I was telling Peter earlier, I mean, this was just such a fantastic lens into really helping me familiarize ourselves with one of our centers and one of our key areas of service. But one of the things that really struck me was how many of our classes, and this isn't just Greenwich House, but certainly at Center on the Square, are run by members, by seniors themselves. And it kind of reminded me, not to harp on Laura's point about kind of a club for older adults, but this idea that, when for anyone that went to a college or something like this, and you'd have these clubs that students had to kind of volunteer and run, and it was these kind of student-led clubs. It really felt to me like there were these member-led groups and clubs, and it was, whether it was around language or whether it was around film study or whatever, and it was just neat to see that sense of ownership from members. And again, this idea that we can create a space, but it's what they bring in, that I had not had a sense of just how much was self-driven work by members.
I think I would say what surprised me, maybe not surprised, but what was so important, I think, was something Laura says towards the end of the film, which is, for a lot of people, the center is such an important part of their life. It really is their family. And, especially for people that don't have a lot of other connections, don't have friends or family in New York City or still alive or whatever it may be. The center plays a huge role for a number of people. And those people tend to be there every day. And they're also, in some sense, the center of the center, because they're really the ones who are the regulars, And that's who I found myself drawn to in some sense, were the regulars,
Mm-hmm.
Esther, can I call on you? Any surprises?
I should also, Esther teaches there now online. But.
Right. I would say that the film is about love. I thought the film was about love. And I thought that love takes place when you can create community. And I thought Laura really and Roberto and Loretta created a world of love where everyone was embraced who walked in the door. There are quite a lot of cranky people there. It's not like everybody is smiling and positive and upbeat, but everybody was loved, and I was very touched by that.
Thank you. Folks, if you have any questions, this is your chance. If you don't feel comfortable writing them in the chat, you could raise your hand and wave us down either virtually or in any way, and we'll be happy to open your mic to ask any questions. Peter, are you working on something new?
I am actually. I'm hoping it's not what thousands of documentary filmmakers are doing, but I'm kind of making a real-time memoir of 2020. I started making something else in January and February, and then everything changed, of course, for everybody, and so it's become, it's a very personal film, I would say, and it's really about the people around me and wherever I happen to be, and it's interesting though. It's a little bit more like the first film that we showed at the center, Old Friends. It's
Old Friends.
like that.
There's a side of me that hopes that film becomes obsolete very soon.
Well, I hope it has a happy ending anyway.
And a happy ending for sure. That's definitely what we need. Folks, this is your last call to be a part of it. If you'd like us to unmute you, just wave us down. We're happy to take your questions. Rocky, you had it seems like you had a question. Rocky Chin? Can we unmute Rocky?
Dina's got a question.
Rocky. Yeah.
Andrea, I see a question from you. Can we unmute Andrea and then Dina? We'll take one from each. I unfortunately can't. Oh, there you go. You're unmuted, Andrea.
Well, thank you for making this film and having this Q&A. I'm 29 and Priscilla's my high school buddy, and we saw them together. We saw the whole film and we were very excited by the classes and the sense of community, and we're like, that's what we want. Why don't we have something like that? So I suppose one of my questions is, can anybody come to the centers? Like, how does it work? What if younger folks want to volunteer and do maybe like a tech class or something like that? How does that work?
So I can answer that. To come to the senior center, the only requirement is that you have to be 60 years old. We try to make it very casual and very easy for people to come in, and not a rigorous registration form or anything like that. We make it easy for anybody that wants to come in. Any volunteers, you could always email us, go to our website. We have our email on the website, and we welcome any volunteers that would like to teach a class. And like Darren said before, a lot of our programs are taught by volunteers and our own seniors, and we would welcome that. So anytime.
But can anyone come for the lunch? That's the question.
So yeah, anybody can. Anybody that's over 60 can register. We are funded by the Department for the Aging. About 80 or 90% of our budget comes from
Andrea, if you're 29 and your roommate there, the two of you combined maybe get to 60. So
yeah.
split a meal maybe.
So yeah, anybody could come by. Anybody over 60 could register and come for lunch or classes.
Thank you. We have a question from Dina. Dina, we're going to unmute you.
Am I unmuted?
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, Peter. It's a beautiful film, and it's so sensitive. So I'm not surprised at the sensitivity knowing you. But it really did feel, as the other speaker had said, that you had become part of that community. There were so many amazing shots where clearly people were so unaware of the camera. You were just there. And that's just true observational cinema. It's just gorgeous to watch. But I was wondering, maybe my question is how maybe you were changed through the process, because when I watched it, I felt so inspired and kind of excited, and it felt like very alive. And as Esther was saying, there's so much love and enthusiasm for life. But that I would imagine the sensitivity it takes to make that movie, where you're always kind of aware of who these people are and you're connecting to them and getting their stories. What was that process like for you? Did you feel changed at the end of this?
Yeah, because I'm really not a very social person, and so probably the chances of if I hadn't made this film, it'd be unlikely that I would have become part of a senior center, I think. And I remember my first couple of days there. There's a kind of a scary part of the lunch part, which is there's a slight reminiscent quality of junior high school in terms of who sits at which table, and so there's a little bit of that. So when I was first there, that was bringing back rough memories, kind of. But I think, but then as you become part of the community, it's really such an amazing thing, and it's so. It happens very naturally, the community part. It's not at all, there's no construct to make it happen, there's no, maybe there is, and I just didn't get it, but it seems to happen very organically,
Was the camera a way that made it easier for you to be part of the community?
I think so, for sure, for me. Yeah.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm.
Peter, can I ask, just building off that question, did you spend time in the center without a camera, just simply observing before you brought that camera in, or
just the very first day for a couple of hours?
Yeah.
And then from then on, because you always learn when you make documentaries that you better bring your camera. If you don't, something amazing is going to happen. You're going to miss it. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take two last questions. We have a question from Natalie Wind. Natalie.
Hi, so I work with Meals on Wheels in Westchester, and I know a lot of the clients are getting pretty bored with this pandemic. Some of them are homebound. And I'm wondering, this is for you, Laura, is it possible now that things are on Zoom for them to participate, even though they would never be able to participate in person, as long as they're over the age of 60?
Yes, absolutely. They would be able to participate, and we could put them on our weekly mailing list. We have a mailing list that goes out once a week with all of the programs and activities. And we found in the last few months out of this COVID that we are able to bring our virtual classes to so many different households that we never could before, just at Washington Square North. So that's the good part about these programs online. We're able to open it up to a much broader audience. So definitely, Natalie, if you want, I'll put my email in the chat, and anybody could email me and I'll add them to our mailing list.
And finally, we have a question from Ellen. Ellen, you're on the air.
Hi. So my question, Peter, is, I love the film. Thank you. Thank you. What a gift for all of us. And here's my question. When you showed it to the members at the center, what was their response? Was there anything that surprised them? And was there anything that surprised you about their response?
Well, beforehand, I had to explain, at one point, at first they didn't know what I was doing. And then I was still there, and I was still there, and I was still there. And then I disappeared for a long time editing. And then, and then they started to get excited, like they were going to be like Hollywood stars. And I had to explain this was very unlikely. That you're going to have maybe your 15 seconds of fame, and that was it. But we had a big premiere at Doc NYC, which was like a 400-seat theater and a very big screen. And I think everybody kind of it surprised everyone, I think, to see the film, and what you don't really know sometimes what you're a part of, until you get a view of it from the outside, I think.
So I have a follow-up, which is, has anyone, and if not, can you arrange for people to see it with their families and then have the family do a little Q&A with them about things they may have learned about them by watching this film?
Oh, their own families.
Yes, their own families.
That sounds really interesting. I don't know how to set it up
That's a
exactly,
nice
but
idea.
that's a nice idea.
I do think it is a wonderful educational tool and can work very nicely intergenerationally. Please, folks, tell your friends about this film and help spread the word, because I think it's really a gem. Folks, I want to thank you all so much for being a part of this conversation. Darren, Judy, Laura, Peter, and Esther, thank you so much for taking the time and bringing this to our community and all the work that you do. We want to thank you all for joining us and being a part of the conversation. Of course, check out the new Wexler Center for Modern Aging as well at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan, and join us for more films here. We'll continue to bring you these programs.
I just want to quickly say thank you so much for screening it. I didn't voice my thanks for doing it.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm sorry we could not do it in person. Folks, most importantly, of course, stay safe, wear your masks, and vote. It's coming up. Help spread the word. Thank you, and have a good night. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Peter. Bye, Esther.
See you soon.